So this is an update to my book. I am making the step, the transition in my characters from because the other thing that I'm doing is that I'm establishing like this identity, and there's the identity of the self, which is at the beginning, but now it's progressed, but then it progressed into the identity of like the friends, and all for one, one for all, kind of Three Musketeers. So there was that transition early on. But actually, it wasn't even so much that, because it kind of always was. There was the three, So yeah, it's maybe that's what it is. I didn't realize it. So see, this is like inside the actor's studio. That's what I like. I like knowing and also the commentaries of movies. Because I like knowing what the director was thinking and like what little tidbits of information they're not including. But it's like, if you're a writer, if you're an author, and if it's a really well done film, well shot, well acted, well written, especially, there's going to be foreshadow. There's going to be like little hints and tips in here and there. It's like how in Lethal Weapon, Mel Gibson wakes up with a gun in his hand in the bed, and the reason why is because he's been contemplating suicide. He would get really drunk and then go through the motion of the suicide, which, that my uncle was a suicide, and and there's a story behind that, but just how people act, how people react in a group setting. I think also that's kind of what Chuck Palahniuk was kind of getting at with Fight Club, and I think even a little bit in Choke, was what is people's reactions. And in fact, in Choke, you can really see it. How do people react to a certain stimuli, a certain phenomena? What's going to happen? And he said, like, well, what happens is you get this great amount of sympathy and beholdenness, and this is like you basically kind of seek the giving spirit of charitable people, and charitable people also happen to sometimes be wealthy people, and so that's something interesting. Or they have access to wealth, and they're willing to share that wealth because of their charitable spirit. I hope I didn't ruin the premise of Choke there. There's a whole lot of sexual promiscuity in Choke, so that's a reason to read it, if anything. But it's what he was exploring. It was like, well, what is this phenomena outside of the self, outside of the identity? Like, what is it that a person can do and provide for another person? It's a human interaction, which then makes the title just so much more, because imagine, relationships are just where you choke something out of somebody else. I'm going to have to use that as an example on if I ever do a relationship book, which actually I've kind of done. But yeah. Oh, God. Anyways, I got this idea for a story. I got two ideas for stories, but I needed to do it with women, which is why I was hoping I would get if I could possibly find a literary spouse, that'd be awesome. But then we'd have interesting arguments. Anyways, Justin TV, man. The idea would be that I'd had two things, but one of them would be of basically a tribal prince. Some access, it's a very primitive medieval society. The people are living in huts, and it's mostly agrarian. And in particular, I think I was even going to make it that, think of like the Huns. People living on horseback and nomadic, tribal. And just, I was thinking like that, but it's these people who are transitioning. So that they still have a lot of horse, there's still a lot of them riding around and duking it out like that. And that's considered the ideals of masculinity and just proper status. And as part of it too is that you're always claiming. So this guy claims a wife. Every other chapter in this book is written from the wife's point of view, and every other chapter is written from the husband's point of view. and it's what the two of them are doing, what the two of them are going through in life, and it's so in a way it's either biographical or autobiographical kind of thing, and that's what I'd have my wife write the female parts, but I would also, this is the thing, I was going to have it start out very early on in the story that basically the wedding night the guy rapes her, and either the story picks up right after the rape on her side of the story, like just how she felt, or it could even be her point of view of the rape, which would be and in fact I kind of want that. I just think that have a woman her point of view being raped, and just break all sorts of censorship and or like, oh my God, modesty, this is children's fantasy you're writing, and it's like it's not. It's young adult fantasy, and if anything, it's real fantasy. It's a real thing that women get raped. And right from her point of view. And is it fantasy? Well, it's more of a whatever to history. I really don't like magic. Like I'll use magic as a deus ex machina, as a little mechanism to make something accomplished. But I think it's much better to write a story from the point of view of, no, we have to physically make this thing. We want something, but we have to physically make it. We can't rely on other people to give it to us. And we can't, go up against impossible odds without a plan of some sort. It's like, no, we're not going to throw fate to the wind. We're not going to do the Star Wars, just charge in. I mean, and that's something else I did. So, by the way, I'm going to need to move these videos to this other website. Anyways, that's what I like to write. I like to write that, these guys are going to physically accomplish a goal, and you're going to witness it. They're going to talk about it to people, and you're going to see like how a guy has to go from, he has to talk to people, and he has to convince people, and then he has to, procreate, and that's going to be part of it too. It's like, he took the wife, and he took her, violently. I did think about writing it from the male point of view, and I think I could do that, but then her story is either her side of the event. In fact, that would probably be even better, which is just, that's the thing, you're reading it, you're like, oh God, oh geez, it's kind of like with Anne Rice. See, that's the problem. I don't want to be Anne Rice in terms of graphic. I kind of dug Anne Rice's just detail about certain things and ideas, and how how does society exist for vampires, and by how does society exist, I mean how do vampires basically interact with each other, and then also in terms of procreation. But see, it's always interesting how a lot of fantasy just skirts this idea of procreation, and but then some doesn't. I mean, it's like there's some fantasy, and it's just all about chicks with big boobs, and when you look at sculptures and paintings of women from ancient time periods, they didn't have these shapely breasts. They didn't have these things, but they had stuff. They had some interesting outfits. Rome has proven that, and didn't believe in bras and didn't mind the nips poking out. So, but that's why I like Rome so much, is that it's an interpretive version of history. But I think they did a really good, smart choice in making it cosmopolitan. In that, no, these people go day to day. We're just getting a glimpse into their life. They have stuff that, they have baggage they bring into the conversation, and, and they're going to carry some of that baggage on, and that's what I try to, capture in my conversations, is that, these people just got stuff on their mind, and they're just, they're just bouncing together because it's, for whatever reason, they want to talk, and it's like I threw it in this one thing. Is like, what you doing? Are you talking to the guys? Like, no, man, I'm making a spell. It's like, oh, okay. So, but there's a reason for that. It's for that spell, and I just think of like some cool ideas of how you could use magic. So if anything, if this one story becomes a series, I got to lay it out. So, and if any of you guys who are watching this and reading it, if you're thinking like, well, what is he going to do with these guys?